Hi, my name is Jinx, and today I am reviewing a book called Saying Goodbye to Lulu by Corinne Demas, illustrated by Ard Hoyt. So, Corinne Demas is an English professor at Mount Holyoke College in Massachusetts and began writing children's books when she became a parent. She always wanted a dog but couldn't have one growing up. But now she has a dog and 2 miniature donkeys. According to her website, she has written short stories, 5 novels, poetry, 2 plays, and children's books. According to Amazon.com, the age range for this book is 4 to 8 years old. It's meant for children and adults who are grieving the loss of a pet or loved one. Saying Goodbye to Lulu is about a little girl who is grieving the loss of her dog. It discusses her remembering when Lulu was a puppy, up to Lulu's old age, and then death. It addresses how the child wishes that Lulu could be like she used to be before she lost her eyesight and her hearing. Her parents even tell her that they will get her a new dog, but the little girl doesn't want a new dog. She wants Lulu back. It really touches upon all the feels. So I'd like to read the author's note before jumping into what I feel is meant by this book. So it says, "It can be hard to talk about death with children, and it's my hope that this book will open the door for discussion. Although Saying Goodbye to Lulu is about coping with the loss of a beloved pet, I've heard from readers that it's also been helpful for children who've lost family members or friends. In my story, the narrator finds comfort in looking at old photographs of Lulu and talking with her mother about what Lulu was like when she was young. I've found that writing about loss is one of the best ways to begin the healing process. Many children have shown me their own stories and poems about pets and people who they've lost. Others have expressed themselves through art, while some children take comfort in simply sharing their feelings with a sensitive listener. Everyone deals with death in his or her own way. For all of you, children and adults who are grieving, I hope that Lulu's story will inspire you to tell your own." And underneath that, it has a paragraph talking about visiting the ASPCA website for tips on coping with the loss of a pet, which I think is really beneficial to include in this book. So, this book was given to me and my daughter when we took our elderly dog, Logan, to the veterinarian because he was having trouble breathing. We were told, due to his breed, weight, and age, that he had a severely collapsed trachea and that he didn't have an optimistic prognosis. From previously having severe pneumonia myself and being unable to breathe, I couldn't bear the thought of him suffocating at home, and so we chose to euthanize. Upon leaving, the doctor gave us this book, mainly for my daughter, but said that it was for all of us as well, to help in the grieving process. The author states that it's primarily for younger children who are grieving, but that it can also be used for people of all ages. I also think that this book would be best to read with the child, because they may or may not understand what death is, aside from the absence it's left in their hearts. I know personally, reading it with my daughter, that I found myself crying when trying to make my way through the book, and it opens a dialogue for empathy and healing. When I would cry while reading the book, my kindergartner would ask if I was okay and recognize sadness, and then would say, "Logan died and we miss him," and then she would sing "Rock-a-Bye Baby" and "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star" to comfort me. So regarding the reviews for this book, according to Amazon, it is ranked 4.7 out of 5 stars, with 277 global reviews. 85% of those reviews fall under 5 stars, while 2%, which is 4 total ratings, that only gave it 1 star. So I'm going to start with the negative first, and then I'll go into the positive. So for the 1-star review, titled "A Little Too Dark," it says, "The dog is old and sick, and they talk about how he will die soon. But I did not like how the parents try to cheer the child up before the dog dies by saying when the dog dies, they will get a new dog. Dogs are not replaceable. When the dog dies, the little girl is offered the chance to touch him. This is scary to my young child. And then they bury him in the backyard. Does anyone do that anymore? Doesn't everyone cremate? All in all, this was not the right book for our circumstances." Then there was a positive review that says, well, it's Yeah. First of all, if you're looking at reviews to decide whether or not to order this book, I'm so sorry. The time had come for us to say goodbye to our 15-year-old pup, Sunny. We wanted to explain it to our 4-year-old and 6-year-old so they could say their goodbyes, and this book does an amazing job. It focuses on an aging dog that slowly can't do the things it used to, which is where we were with Sunny. I read it a few times before reading it to the kids, so I could change a few words to make it apply to our situation. Also, at the end, there are 2 blank pages, and then it discusses the family getting a new puppy. We have another dog and don't plan on adopting another puppy right away, so by reading ahead of time, I knew about this and ended the book before getting to those pages. Trying to explain all of this to a child when I was heartbroken myself was one of the toughest things, but having this book as my crutch to properly explain what was going on when I didn't have the words was a lifesaver. And 84 people found that helpful. There was also another review that was 5 stars that I thought was very beneficial, that said, as our dog gets older and we realize she may not be with us much longer, we wanted to introduce the idea of a dog passing from old age to our 2.5-year-old son. I like this book because it's tender but honest. It talks about the different ways you can tell a dog is aging, can't get upstairs, can't see or hear, and very frankly says, Mommy told me Lulu was dead. It doesn't offer a silver lining or a dog going to heaven, just talks about the feelings associated with the loss. It does have a gap between the part where it talks about getting a new dog, so we just stopped there since we don't plan on getting a new dog right away. My son doesn't even realize the additional pages are there. So, now I'm going to read a couple quotes from the book. When Lulu couldn't walk anymore, I would carry her out to the grass. When she couldn't see or hear at all, she could still smell. She would lift her head to sniff the outside world. I fed her from my hand and held her water bowl so she could drink. And I think that's important because it is relatable to children, because they can see what the dog is experiencing, their family member is experiencing. So I feel that that's relatable. The next page says, Sweetheart, you can't make her well again, Mommy said at dinner time. I kicked the leg of the table. I know that, I said. I lay down beside Lulu and stroked her back. Her fur was soft and fuzzy, but underneath I could feel her bones. She licked my hand. She could still lick. I love you, Lulu, I said, but she already knew that. I think that information is good because it's very relatable also, and reaffirming that the dog knows that the little girl loves her, even if she's sick. I wanted Lulu to come dashing out to meet my bus when I came home from school. I wanted Lulu to play catch with my old ball and bring it back, even when I threw it as far as I could throw. I wanted Lulu to go mucking in the stream with me and climb on the rocks with me and exploring in the woods with me. I wanted Lulu to race me up the stairs to bed and bark until Daddy came to read us our goodnight story. One day, Lulu couldn't stand up. She slept all day, and she didn't eat. She wet her bed. It's like when she was a newborn puppy, Mommy said. That was before I was born. What was she like then, I asked. Her eyes weren't open, and she couldn't see. She couldn't stand up, and she didn't eat real food yet. She slept all the time, said Mommy. When I came home from school the next day, Mommy told me Lulu was dead. She took me on her lap and we both cried. Do you want to see her and say goodbye, Mommy asked. I wanted to say goodbye, but I was afraid to. When springtime came, we planted a cherry tree with pink flowers by her grave. Lulu's tree, I called it. I knelt in its small circle of shade. I stroked the new, fresh green grass. Goodbye, Lulu, I said softly. So, I highly recommend this book. From experience, it's helped our family open up communication about the loss of our eldest dog with my kindergartner, to express loss and grief not just for her, but for me as well. It's still hard to read the book cover to cover because it hits upon all these raw emotions that'll make me tear up inside, but it instills empathy in these trying times. We're still grieving after, a little less than a year, but I feel it's brought our family closer to grieve together. Some of the reviews for the book talked about how they liked that it didn't talk about religion or a rainbow bridge, and other reviews said they were disappointed that they didn't include that wording. I still have my own beliefs, regardless, about seeing my dog again someday, but from a child's perspective, I appreciate how much is just plainly laid out with the information of aging, the aging process and death, to try and explain to a child, like in our case with Logan, why he wasn't coming home, because that felt like the hardest discussion to have, was where he was at night and if he was ever coming back. And I just feel this book really helped us. Thank you.